Howdy, folks. You are listening to the Doc Owen Show. Welcome back or welcome aboard. We are glad to have you. This is Dr. Richard Owen, joined in the Hilltop Studios by...
I'm a surefire.
And...
Uncle Bachi.
So we are all in the house. We have a huge show tonight. That's Y-U-U-U-U-G-E, according to the Trumpinator. Anyway, we got a lot to cover, just an awful lot to cover. We've got a very upbeat and somewhat enlightening interview or conversation that I had. It's the second part. We did the first part last week. This is the second part of a conversation I had with two bright, industrious young millennials up in Austin, Texas, by the name of Tyler, Gwen, and Ben Woods. I think you will enjoy the conversation. We are all over the social media as Doc Owen Show, DOCOWENSHOW. We will probably talk more about that before we get in as we go through the show, etc. And we are ramping up our DocOwenShow.com blog, which is going to be the central focus over the next few months of what we get done and how we parse out the information that we deliver. So let's get started. First thing we do is we have an inspirational moment of inspirational quotation from Ms. Surefire. Take it away, madam.
Tonight's quote, as usual, comes from InspirationalDaily.com. And it's from a gentleman by the name of Edmund Burke. He was an Irish statesman, born in Dublin, and he was an author and philosopher.
Okay.
And his quote is, "We must all obey the great law of change. It is the most powerful law of nature."
Yes. And constant.
That's true.
That's the hardest part about it. We normally go from Ms. Surefire's quote, an inspirational quote, to a leadership quote. However, this week and for all weeks following, we are going to include Uncle Bachi, who's going to deliver to us a piece of information on this day in history. Uncle Bachi?
Yes, sir. Well, this day in history in 1798, remember who was president then?
I was just a child.
John Adams. Okay, one of the most egregious breaches of U.S. Constitution in history becomes federal law when Congress passes the Alien and Sedition Acts. Now, the first part of those acts dealt with immigration, where they extended the time period from 5 years to 14 years. The most important part of this was the actual Sedition Act, which was the fourth act. The government, or really the Congress, led by Alexander Hamilton, passed this law which said that you do not have the right to say anything wrong about or right about the government.
So, when was the Constitution?
1789,
It was ratified in 1789. So less than 10 years later.
Already, they're trying to break. Hamilton was a very staunch Federalist. He believed in a very strong central government.
Right.
So yeah.
He also liked the $20 bill, I think, didn't he?
No, that's Jackson on the $20 bill. He's on.
Where's
the 10.
Hamilton?
He's on the 10.
Oh well, then all he's worth is $10. I mean, why? But he wrote the Sedition Act because
Yeah.
That's interesting. 9 years into it, they're already saying,
they're already squabbling about it.
And people are obviously complaining about it or whatever.
Jefferson and Madison came, roaring in, and they did get that, taken away.
Oh, they did?
Oh, yeah, they were successful
okay.
in getting it taken away.
Okay.
But, yeah.
All right. I have not one, but two leaders. Thank you, Uncle Bachi. Good job. Not one, but two leadership quotes tonight. The first is from a gentleman by the name of Wayne Dyer, who was a very well-known motivational speaker and author and etc. He died in 2015, not too long ago, and he had a best-selling book that sold over 35 million copies worldwide called Your Erroneous Zone. So had to do with where you made mistakes, I guess. Okay. He said, be miserable or motivate yourself. Whatever has to be done, it's always your choice.
I like that.
Okay. The second one is from a fellow by the name of Charles Capps, Capps. I have no idea who Mr. Capps was because this quote showed up giving him credit, but I've been using it for probably 25 years. And it's a well-known quote within the oil patch, okay, which is where I learned it. And it says, when you find yourself in a hole, quit digging.
There you go. Yeah, that's true.
We just always refer to it as the first law of holes. Okay. Well, I mean,
Yeah, that's it.
Think
You're
about
there.
it.
Yeah,
Right.
you're there.
We'll talk about people being in holes and quitting digging later on in the show. We're gonna cover a lot of material tonight. The first of which is always Uncle Bachi's brief, a bit of history. And I understand last week we were talking about the French geography and the amount that they basically had under control, or at least had started to meander around in and find out about, et cetera, right?
Exactly.
So, and we're going to stay within the French realm. Before you get into that, I think the Doc Owen Show should offer condolences to our French brethren who are currently under a huge terrorist attack.
Yeah.
And, we, as always, empathize with their plight.
Absolutely.
And, wish them the best at dealing with it. So I don't want to dive back into French history without saying that. Uncle Bachi, take it away for us, will you,
Yes,
please?
sir. What we're going to see tonight is a little bit of follow the bouncing ball. Because, yes, while we're talking about French Louisiana, some things were going on. We left off last time with the French founding New Orleans in 1718. Okay? Now, the settlement in that area went very, very slowly. There was very little economic development going on in the area. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, in Europe, there was a war that was raging, which affected the Americas as well.
Okay.
The 7 Years' War, and we called it the French and Indian War.
Okay.
As a result of that war, there was a treaty of Fontainebleau, which was a secret agreement between the French and Spain, in which the French actually ceded Louisiana to Spain because of that war. So now Louisiana has control of the lower Louisiana territory.
You mean Spain has control
I
of
mean,
it?
Spain has it.
Did they for monetary value so they could continue to persecute their war, or do you know?
No, it was just the ravages of war.
Okay.
They got the French to cede it to them.
Interesting.
Okay, and also what happened then? There was a confirmation of British control of Canada.
Oh, okay.
So that kind of happened there at the Battle of Spring Hill.
Okay.
And that was in 1762. Now, the agreement covered the entirety of the Louisiana Territory. And the Louisiana Territory, as we said last
It was
week,
a lot bigger than it is today.
Yeah, it was the entire valley of the Mississippi River from the Appalachians all the way to the Rockies.
Wow.
So it's a huge chunk of land.
Yeah.
Now, the French, they lost half of it to, well, it was the French colonists didn't like the idea that Spain had taken over their property. So they rebelled against it, and they kicked out the Spanish governor in 1760.
Okay, so the French the French homeland did the ceding. right?
Yes, it was the king,
to
yeah.
the Spanish. Okay,
Right.
to Spain.
Right.
So that was a deal that was made
Yeah.
without
Exactly.
local input.
Exactly.
So the locals that were on the ground in Louisiana objected to now being under the control of Spain.
Exactly.
Okay, I got it.
And if you remember a little bit of our Spanish history, what this did is this gave Spain a span of property
Florida.
all the way from Florida
To Mexico.
It encircled the Gulf of Mexico.
Got
so
it.
Spain had control of that whole area all the way up west of the Mississippi.
So
to
strategically,
Canada.
that was. I mean, yeah. Okay, I got
Okay.
it. Yep.
So that consolidated the Spanish Empire in North America. Then the United States at that time also returned, I don't understand why, but they returned Florida to Spain in 1783. This was following the victory of the Revolutionary War.
Okay.
That was the last battle. And I guess Spain didn't come up against us, so we decided to be good guys and give it back to them.
Yeah, and it was probably more than we could administer to anyway,
Right.
and probably viewed as mostly swampland.
Yeah, exactly.
From the
That's true.
perspective of people in Virginia and
Oh yeah, totally different.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
But that's not the end of the Louisiana
they didn't know
territory.
that someday they were going to want to retire
Okay.
there. Go ahead.
Napoleon came to power in France.
Oh,
Okay? And Napoleon said,
little bitty guy.
I don't agree with this Spanish secession or the secession to Spain.
Okay.
So he forced the Spanish to give them back the Louisiana territory. So now the Louisiana territory is in French hands again.
Okay.
Unfortunately for Mr. Bonaparte, he needed funds because he was in all kinds of wars and he had such a war debt.
Right.
So they had another war with Great Britain. The French didn't feel that they could control such a far distant land.
Right.
So what ended up happening is they threatened the United States at the time that they were going to disallow the United States navigation on the Mississippi River.
I remember that,
So
yep.
so they did that.
Right.
We were really upset with that. So instead, somebody with a smart mind said, "Look, you need money.
Make
We'll
you a
give you
deal.
$15 million. Sell Louisiana to us." That was
Okay.
under Thomas
It-
Jefferson.
And that included the Café du Monde, right?
Yes, the Café du Monde.
Okay.
It
Nice,
included
nice.
that
Okay.
vast territory all the way over to. So the United States grew,
Oh.
doubled its land
Oh,
territory.
see, we gave them $15 million for what at that time was Louisiana, not present day Louisiana.
That's correct. It was
Oh.
the Louisiana territory.
Café.
Well, you sort of lose. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You sort of lose
Right,
perspective
Yeah.
when you say, okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So that was so now it became part of the United States, and
Okay.
that happened in 1803 under Thomas Jefferson.
Way to go, Tom.
And that pretty much concludes our story of France.
Perfect.
And next week, hopefully, we're going to return to the 13 original colonies.
Okay.
And we're going to start looking at the pre-Revolutionary War
Yep.
times and what was going on then.
Okay.
So, folks,
So we took a trip
tune
through
in.
there. We took a trip through there. That's where we started
exactly.
in colonial times.
Exactly.
Is what
Yes.
you're saying.
So
and then you we traipsed around the United States as it was known at that time,
yes.
all the way out to as far as Texas, which is basically well, you even took us to California. I'm just
Yes.
kind of doing a recap for the
Sure,
listeners.
sure.
And so that now you're coming full circle, and we're going to go back to what is now the United States, or what is
No,
we're
we'll be going
still pre-United States.
pre-Declaration of Independence.
I like it. Okay.
Yeah, and
Very well.
we'll get back to that.
Okay. Very, very well. Good job. Tell them where to find you.
Find me at Uncle Bocce at DocOwenShow.com. That's Uncle Bocce, UNCLEBACI.
Yeah, it's the Italian bocce.
The Italian Bocce.
Okay. We got it. Very
Thank
well
you,
done.
Bocce.
Thank you, sir.
Good.
All right, we're going to take a brief sip of water during our 30-second commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm George Foreman. Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? Do you have the same questions? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
Call InventHelp today for free information. InventHelp can submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new ideas.
Call 1-800-352-3127. Again, 1-800-352-3127. A fee-based company.
Howdy, folks. Welcome back or welcome aboard. You are listening to the Doc Owen Show. We are glad to have you. We are about to listen to part 2 of about a 1-hour conversation that we had in Austin, Texas recently with 2 young gentlemen, one by the name of Tyler Gwynn, the other Ben Woods. They are the founders, owners, operators, chief bottle washers at a retail outlet by the name of Weathered Coalition. You need to check them out at weatheredcoalition.com. It is really, they're 27. I know that Tyler's 27 years old because he admitted as much during the conversation. Ben never let on to his age, but he's in the same millennial age group. And they're really doing some interesting things. They're fine young men. I think you'll be able to certainly realize that through the conversation and have some good takeaways from it. So we're going to spend about another 12 to 15 minutes with Tyler and Ben, and then we will be back after that to talk some current events, we'll call them. Take it away, boys.
This is something to look forward to. So we're about to increase our blog presence.
See? I told you.
Yeah.
2 ladies just walked in this door.
I can tell you a little bit about the blog, but so basically we're trying to increase our web presence by offering up different experiences on our website. So we're gonna.
What does that mean?
So next month we're actually going to show people what it means to go to market. So we're going to actually kind of document the whole process and show people, okay, not only are you going to see where this product comes from, but you're going to see who made it and why we decided to go with it and where we went to find them. And
are you going to scope it? I mean, how are you going to do this?
So we'll do video and photo, and then Ben and I are kind of going to journal the whole process as well. And we're hoping to release this just in stages. So
really great.
we're talking about going to New York, but
that's really
I think that's the kind of content we want to start developing on our side is developing that human aspect and making the connection between the product and who we are as people. So.
Yeah, all of the training and all of the feedback I get in social media is that's how it's done.
Yeah,
that's how you don't just put it out there and tell somebody something. You help
bring
them
them
experience.
in.
Yeah, come into the process for sure. I think that's been our thing all along.
Or is that intuitive? I'm serious. That's a serious question.
It's probably both.
It's probably both for both.
I think it's generational a little bit for us too. Like our generation wants the transparency.
Yes.
I think Tyler hinted and alluded to it earlier. Like part of us having where we're sitting now, we've got all of our stuff for fall winter 16 on the board back here, and we've got this table where we're working. So that's transparent. But then we're like, how do we really connect people with the product? Because a lot of people, a product is just a product, but if you're able to show them through the process that there's all these people's hands touching it and creating it and getting it from concept to samples to production to in the showroom, like what it takes to actually get a product in your hands as a consumer, I think people are fascinated by that. There's a story there. So when someone asks them about the shirt, it's not like, I just bought this shirt somewhere. It's like, let me tell you about this. This is a really cool brand, a really cool product. And there's something to be said because, we don't shy away from the fact that some of our products are, but we're also offering a premium experience and a premium quality too. And that's we want people that buy into that vision, and those are the kind of people that shop here. So
you want them to appreciate you want them to appreciate what they're looking at.
Absolutely.
Or what they're touching, what they're, whatever. And that's all about telling the story.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I would say
you ran him in a pretty fast.
What's that?
So when you want to get rid of somebody,
no, she's going to get her boyfriend. She's going to get her boyfriend. So that's
absolutely. Yeah, when Tyler, I sent him on there, I'm like, hey man, those people need to leave. Can you get them out of here?
I'm the bouncer here.
Yeah, I think other things like little things that just things that we try to take it back to that old school kind of like we really take care of you. We do free custom hemming and tailoring on all of our denim and pants It's on the house.
Really?
You don't pay for
with
that.
a local guy too. So
With a local guy here.
He's been doing it for years.
So I can have blue jeans and I didn't have to roll up?
Yeah.
Never in my life.
So it's just little things like that, like the drinks and the free tailoring
Yeah.
and stuff that we're like, if you shop here, we're going to take care of you, not just get you a product. We're going to make sure from the beginning to the end the experience is the best experience you can have.
It comes down to this for me. So like people see our line underneath the logo. It says domestic supplies from in, and it's intentionally somewhat vague, which is counterintuitive for marketing. But it's got this. It's intriguing, right?
Right.
It's got this double meaning. Like obviously, initially, it's domestic manufacturing. It's supplies for guys that are made in the States. But it also has this meaning that's closer to home for Ben and I, and it has to do with this idea of home. So domestic meaning wherever you call home. We want the experience in store to be that way, and we want to sell products for wherever you call home. So it's not about necessarily a certain style, a certain trend. It's just about what does your daily life look like? Where do you spend your time? And we want to like support you with those types of products. Because there's going to be, at the end of the day, there's going to be competitors on our street, in our city, around the country that are selling apparel, but we want to focus less on the aesthetic and more on just, okay, like what is that you actually need and how can we help you? So
Right.
without that sounding too sales pitchy, it's just true for us. Like that's the experience we want when we go in a store.
We want you to have a different feeling when you walk in our shop. Like,
I'm a nester, what is called a nester. In other words, within a very small space in a very short period of time, I make it my home. I get very comfortable, because I'm a consultant and I'm on site, different sites usually, a lot. And I just got little things that I put out, and
Absolutely.
Okay, here I'm home. I'm comfortable.
Yeah.
Keep talking. I'm going to show you.
I think for us too, it's like, home is less about a place and more about like a feeling for us.
Yeah.
It's like, where do you feel comfortable? Like, and so not only that, do we want this to feel like home as well, like in the sense of like, this is your comfort place. Like this is where like you feel comfortable, like, and so that's huge for us too. So
well, and that's exactly what I felt when I came in here.
Yeah.
And I didn't know it but I didn't realize it until you just said that.
Good. Well,
it's huge. Yeah,
it is huge, and I really didn't realize it. And it's like because the hats are things are just kind of, I don't want to say they're thrown around, but they're
not overly styled, like to an obsessive point. They're intended to feel like you're walking into your closet.
Where would you put it when you get home? Like, where would you put things? It's like that's how we want it to feel here. It's not artificial.
One of the most successful retailers that I called on, that was my dad's partner in Golan. It had the sloppiest store in the world. It drove me crazy. I'm a bit of a neat freak, and I don't want the audience to think this is a sloppy shop, because it's not. but when all the shirts were like, he'd go over and yank one out and kind of. You didn't like it to be too neat because it didn't look like anybody had been in there.
Too sterile, maybe.
Way too sterile. And he would always leave the suits used to come in a box, a hanging box, and he cut the box open, and there's the new suits. I said, when I sold the suits, I said, Harold, you want me to hang those in stock for you? No, they're perfect right where they are. He left them in the box.
Oh my gosh!
He wouldn't, because that meant it was new stuff or whatever. I was just like,
that's hilarious.
But
we don't.
It has a real home. No, you don't.
No, we try to at least hang our stuff on the racks.
I also had another shop that did huge business that was about a quarter this size.
Wow!
And the vast majority of the inventory was out on the sidewalk. Every day it had to go outside and come back in, and it didn't come back. It had to be stacked back into the store.
Holy cow!
I was completely amazed the first time I went to call.
Good use of space, I guess.
So what time you going to start working in the morning? I usually get there about 7. Why? Because I got to unload the store.
You're looking at the store outside.
Yeah. But so there's all kinds of ways to do it, and it depends on what you're comfortable with.
Yep.
And you're feeling at home. I just showed Tyler a mouse rug that I carry all the time, just so I've got.
Yeah, that's hilarious. You're definitely at home now.
Yeah.
You got your mouse pad rug out. Yeah, that's awesome.
I thought everybody had one.
Yeah. Where's this thing made? We need to know they're selling these.
You do. It's mouserug.com.
All right.
Mouserug.
That's a good plug.
There you go. Mouserug.com. There you go.
And
Free advertising.
Segment provided by Mouserug.
What else can we tell them that might get their interest? Speaking of that, it's weatheredcoalition.com.
Yeah, weatheredcoalition.com.
Duh.
Social media, Weathered Coalition.
We were expecting them to have to do a Google search or something, but Weathered Coalition.
Yeah, and it's a long word. Obviously, some people do the Weather Coalition. We have to kind of reinforce the Weathered Coalition, but I'm trying to think what else is really important for us. I mean, Ben and I try to reinforce with our messaging that this is a family store. It's
Yes.
a family-run business.
Yes.
And I think that term can be overused in the marketplace today, but it really is in the truest sense of the word here, because it's literally Ben and I, our wives, and now their son, and one employee, and that's the team.
Right.
And so it has that's part of the atmosphere here. You're going to feel like it's a smaller team, and it's not intended to be that way. It just is. It's a small team, and we love that. So
If you're within striking distance, or you're passing through or whatever in Austin, and have listened to this, you need to get in early, because it's not always going to be like this. They think it is, but I just have this intuition that it's not always going to be like this.
We like that. I mean, we've seen
great.
stores kind of grow quickly in our space, and with very similar stories in some ways, and we've seen some do it so well, and then some were like, man, some of them.
What do you mean in your
changed.
space?
What would you describe this as?
Yeah. I mean, how close are they? I can't imagine.
Just specifically, I think more just like that specific menswear specific stores, like
ready to wear.
All right. Yeah. I'll buy that.
And it's
there's
what's
not
crazy.
A lot of duplicates of what y'all are doing.
What's crazy is when I say in this space, I actually am in talking about just from an online standpoint and from a country. There are similar concepts around the country that we were inspired by for sure, and are great guys. And so we've seen some people just do it so well and stay so humble, and that's something that we really want to focus on as we do grow. And
you'll do fine in it.
Thanks.
You will.
I appreciate that.
You will. That's a real positive trait.
Awesome. Well, thank you for the compliment.
Yeah. Which he doesn't take those well either, does he?
No. He runs off the customers, and he doesn't take compliments.
What are we going to do with this guy? It makes your job easy keeping track of the numbers, right?
Super easy.
I can't think. What else do we need to tell them? I could hang out for days and swap stories with you.
This has been great. I mean, this is the kind of thing we love to do, to hear just how the industry has kind of been molded by people like yourself, and just the stories that have gone into
there's stories
like this today. Yeah. I mean, like you said, the shoes in here. Now there's probably things in here that are just expected in a men's store, and there was a reason those things happened. So it's cool.
Originally they were just very much think of it, men's suits, dress shirts that went with them, and neckties, and that was about it. Slacks and sport coats, but it was very, very focused on that, and it became more and more personality oriented, if you will. And it was the Ivy League shops that had to do that. It was the college stores that did that, and you're kind of an extension. You are today, in my mind's eye view, you are today's Ivy League store.
That's awesome.
Which is really cool. And because I'll guarantee you, or correct me if I'm wrong, if there are other stores out there similar to yours that have come about it in their own way.
Definitely. Yeah.
Like the guy in Jackson Hole that was doing the whiskey and men's apparel. I don't know what his look is, but it's probably real Jackson Hole. It's probably jeans. Well, you know.
Yeah,
Totally.
Yeah,
I just love that.
for sure. It's indicative of place. For
Yeah,
sure.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a different kind of a ski apparel, or it's jeans,
Sure.
and things like that. You'll start crossing brands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You'll start working the same brands together. Helm will get better known because of you, not just
Absolutely.
because of your trip to New York.
Sure.
If it's not already, or things like that. That's because half of the traveling salesman guy's job is to go from town to town and deliver the message of what's working in the other town.
Right.
And not everything works everywhere. So
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, the uniqueness of having small shop owners too is like you go to different cities and different regions and you get to see like what's inspiring them in those areas. Like,
right.
Because what me and Tyler's style is or what we choose is informed by our story and where we've been and what we've
right.
done, in the same way that a guy in San Francisco or Chicago, his aesthetic and style is going to be different because of the things that he's experienced and informed. And I think that you lose that with large mass retailers. Like, it's just a reproduced like experience in every market that's the same. And so that's the really cool part about going to these independent shops and guys that we know in places like San Diego and
right.
New York and places, because it's a totally different experience in every shop because it's informed by what they know and they've experienced, which is really fun.
People have asked
and really
us,
neat.
are you guys going to... And to Ben's point, if we do, we hope that they do what this store does, which is like tell a story of Austin. So if we were to open a store in another city, we hope that it doesn't feel exactly like this store. It should feel like the brand, but it should feel like that city and those people.
Sure.
That's something we want to do different versus just, like Ben said, just if you open a store, it's just Weather Coalition, the same thing every time, every place.
It's just homogenized. This kind of generic thing that you're pushing out. And so we've always been like community focused. So it's like wherever city we're in, we want to plug ourselves into that culture, like fully.
I mean, this store itself, the wood was sourced here in Austin, and I mean, there's different materials that are based here, so it really is a store that's made from Austin.
Cool.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 877-212-5898. Again, 877-212-5898. That's 877-212-5898. 877-212-5898.
Howdy, folks. Welcome back or welcome aboard. If you were with us for the first half, I hope you enjoyed the second half of the conversation that we had with the folks at Weathered Coalition. That's weatheredcoalition.com. Tyler Gwynn, Ben Woods, thank you very much, gentlemen. I appreciate you joining the show. That was cool. All right, let's talk some stuff here. We got about 20 to 20. Somewhere between 20 and 25 minutes, an extended period this evening, and it is intentional so that we can connect some dots for our youthful audience as well as the rest, maybe some things that you're not aware of. It seems that there is a Stanford, the headlines to this, or the front line to the article says, "The fix is in." Okay? A Stanford study shows how Clinton steals elections. Okay? And if you're not familiar, Stanford is a small university out on the left coast that's relatively well known for their research efforts, etc. And it does say, it says the fix is in. A new Stanford study indicated elections which only use electronic voting machines give Hillary a 9% advance over Sanders in the Democratic primaries. The studies demonstrated that pre-election polls accurately predicted election results when a paper ballot was used. Okay? However, when there were unaccountable electronic voting machines were used with no confirming paper trail, Clinton exceeded expectations by 9%. In other words, she did 9% better than the pre-election poll when it was nothing but electronic. And you think, well, that's a coincidence. Then you dig a little deeper and you find out the two major manufacturers of voting machines, Dominion Voting and HIG Capital, are large Clinton campaign supporters. And it says, I remember reading something about that fact that it is illegal to engage in such a flagrant conflict of interest. All right, so that's a Stanford study. I mean, they, and those are to be respected.
That reminds me of a movie I saw, Dr. Zimbardo and the Stanford Prison Experiment. Back in the early 70s. It was scary.
Dr. Zimbardo?
Yes, Dr. Zimbardo.
Okay, we're going to have to look that up.
Yeah,
Interesting.
Interesting.
Now, let me tell you something I guarantee you did not hit the mainstream media. A DNC, that would be Democratic National Committee, election fraud whistleblower, in other words, somebody that was blowing the whistle on DNC election fraud, was found murdered.
Another one?
Added to the list?
Who worked on exposing recent election fraud during the Democratic primaries was found murdered this week. Seth Conrad Rich was the voter expansion data director at the DNC and had been working on exposing the recent cases of election fraud and voter suppression during the recent primaries around the country. And he just happened to get murdered. Connect the dots.
Yeah.
Connect the dots.
That's
Stanford study when you've got a paper ballot versus an electronic ballot. And I'll, if I may, it's one of the, Hillary Clinton has been running this entire time as if she knew she was going to win. All right? And a lot of people say, well, because the fix is in and all the fraud and cheating and yada, yada, yada. But there continues to be some substantiation of those perceptions of candidate Clinton. Okay? Which tells me, like it or not, we must get out in force. We've got to have a turnout that is we being the opposite side of the street, the conservative side of the street, and it looks like without fail Trump's going to be the candidate, and they're supposedly it has leaked to his. We'll talk about that in a minute. Leaked to his vice presidential candidate is going to be, but it appears that the slate is set for the Republicans, and like it or not, I'm sorry. If you have any faith whatsoever in what the United States of America stands for, and you think we should go forward as the United States of America, you must go vote. You need to take your grandmother to go vote. You need to take your dead uncle to go vote, because that's what they're going to do.
Oh, yeah.
That's what the opposition is going to do. All right?
And they have.
They have in the past.
Done in the past.
It's been proven. For some reason, it never goes beyond the kicking and wailing and gnashing of teeth. I don't know what. No, that's not true. There are people that have been put in jail for, flagrant, but only a few.
Yeah.
We
had one here in San Antonio.
Yeah, there's from time to time there are people that are put in jail, but it's got to be really flagrant and it's got to be relatively easy to prove. The government's not going to go out of their way to try to make a case, any more than the FBI went out of its way to try to make a case with the Clinton email fiasco. All right,
yeah, it just fits in with the liberal or the Democratic way of trying to suppress the vote.
Yes,
in a sense,
Sure.
they know they can win because they can get dead people to vote.
Well, and they've got
You
a
know?
9% edge built into the computer chips in the machine.
Right. Exactly. But and then they demonize those who want to put protections
Oh, absolutely.
on this gift that we have to be able to freely vote.
Gift
and
and
they
responsibility.
demonize
Yes,
people
of
like
course.
us,
Oh, of course.
but yet they're the ones who are doing the wrong things.
I learned a long time ago in business, when somebody treats me as if I'm not to be trusted, they're not to be trusted.
Yeah,
End of
there you go.
discussion. So when so in the political arena, you're using the word demonize. When somebody demonizes my side, that means they're guilty of whatever they're charging me with. Mm-hmm. That's the way supposedly the game is played. Mm-hmm. So speaking of that, found a little interesting piece of information about FBI Director James Comey's connections to the Clinton Foundation. All right. Comey oversaw drug cartel money being laundered in the operations as a top executive at HSBC Bank. All right? Comey has absolutely no law enforcement background and is not qualified to run the FBI. The FBI director held an executive position at HSBC Bank while extreme money laundering operations were being carried out by the Mexican drug cartel and their terrorist allies with the direct assistance of HSBC banking officials. HSBC, by the way, paid huge fines to the federal government to get out of being persecuted or prosecuted for this information. And it asked, why isn't the FBI director investigating Attorney General Loretta Lynch in regard to her conflict of interest meeting with Bill Clinton regarding Hillary's fate? That's because the FBI director is just as dirty as Lynch and the Clintonistas. So this fellow that supposedly has a high degree of integrity and can't be touched and yada-yada, blah-de-blah, if you dig a little bit deeper, you find out that that's not exactly the case.
He's got all those skeletons in his closet.
You bet he does.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go back and look at it, you will find, I don't have it right in front of me, but I read articles where Mr. Comey has been involved in several of cases going all the way back to the Clintons as Mr. and Mrs. Governor of Arkansas, where he helped them get off. So this is somebody that knows the Clintons quite well.
Yeah.
Find it very interesting. Okay. BLM. Let's talk a little bit about BLM.
Bureau of Land Management? No.
Yeah. Well, we got off on their
We got
case.
another BLM.
You know.
I was going to say, I was thinking of another acronym, but that was minus a letter.
Right. We won't do that.
No.
That's all. But that's about what it is.
Yeah.
Obama held a 3-hour meeting with Black Lives Matter leaders after all this stuff has been going down around the country. All right. This is our head of state who was too busy to meet with the head of state of Israel, the head of state. That's the first one that comes to mind, but probably others. But he's got time to sit around and take selfies in the Oval Office with the Black Lives Matter folks, who, by the way, one of their primary directors lives rent-free in a George Soros-funded house and has a salary from a Soros Foundation of $165,000 a year for leading Black Lives Matters. All right. It says that he spent 3 hours with Black Lives Matter leaders spent 3 hours with President Obama Wednesday to demand action in regard to recent officer-involved shootings. They were there to bring up concrete actions the president can take in order to appease its members. Okay? What was on the president's schedule that's officially published was that he was in a meeting with activists and law enforcement, but does not specifically mention Black Lives Matter. And there were no law enforcement there, but that's what was listed. It came only days after McKesson, which is the guy's name, was arrested at a protest in Baton Rouge over the death of Alton Sherling, an armed black male who was shot while struggling with law enforcement. Okay? 3 hours. Connect this dot. Not once did Obama meet with his own defense intelligence chief.
There you go.
Michael T. Flynn has been in the news quite a bit lately. The former Army general and lifelong Democrat was once the Deputy Director of National Intelligence and later became the Director of the Defense Intelligence Agency. He's been mentioned lately as a potential vice presidential candidate with Donald Trump. So, and Mr. General Flynn says, "Here I am running one of the largest intelligence agencies in the world," he told the Daily Caller. "He appoints me twice," talking about Obama. One as the Assistant Director of National Intelligence and one as the Director of the Defense Intelligence Agency. I'm also his Senior Intelligence Officer, and I had almost 5 years in combat. I have never met with him once. Connect the dots.
Again, just connect the
3
dots.
hours.
Exactly. 3 hours
with Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
All right.
And I bet that was a cheering,
Correct.
a cheering session.
That's absolutely correct. Black Lives Matter activist says whites not allowed at the protest. Okay? An activist, Ashley Shackelford, who writes opinion pieces in fringe publications, includes the idea that white people should not attend police violence protests because it will trigger her and that reparations are absolutely owed to her. She then pushed the demented dogma that white people living today owe blacks reparations for slavery. And it reminds us, in parentheses, only 1.4% of white Americans owned black slaves at the height of slavery. 1.4%. Just helping you with the dots, folks.
Absolutely. I mean, this goes back to the early history of the Democrat Party when they created. Remember, we talked about this. They created the Ku Klux Klan. Once they lost the issue of slavery in the South, then they moved into intimidation of the blacks using the KKK to get them to vote for them.
Right.
This is just another arm of the
Ongoing.
Democratic Party.
Ongoing.
They just happen to call it BLM,
Yep.
and they're just anti-American. They're not pro-black. They're anti-American. Sorry for being so staunch on that, but
I think Uncle Bachi connected the dots.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
you're right. Check
I want
plus.
to connect all those dots.
Check plus for you.
Folks in the audience, when you connect the dots, you'll wind up just as aggravated about what's going on as the three of us are.
Yeah.
So, speaking of the BLM, et cetera, everybody seems to think that it was a naturally occurring event, that Black Lives Matter came about as a result of the riots in Ferguson. Okay? And that may be true. In other words, the riots in Ferguson, the Black Lives Matter hashtag and slogan, that's where it sort of kicked off. And that was somewhat organic. But it has since been totally taken away by very nefarious forces. All right? Says there is nothing natural about it, as many already understand. But we might be surprised to learn where BLM actually did come from. As a former leftist, Bruce is connected, blah, blah. So it's not, there's nothing organic about it anymore. I mean, it's completely funded and paid for by your globalist people that, want to see America torn apart. And I know that's strong language, and I know that some people don't believe that could possibly be true, but please come to grips with it. We're in Texas. So I know that our local audience and our friends and people we rub neighbors with at the grocery store, neighbors we rub shoulders with at the grocery store, things like that. It's not really up in our face. We don't feel it. We don't sense it because Texans have a tendency to be, we've kept that away from us to the greatest extent, right?
Yeah.
The deal in Dallas was a real, a rude awakening for us as Texans. And we didn't stand for it very long. If you'll notice what the Dallas police chief came out and said, and actually if you'll notice what the Dallas citizenry did, there was a protest that was all over YouTube where the two sides actually came together in the middle of the street and hugged and made up. And it's a real moving event where Black Lives Matter and the anti-Black Lives Matter came together and said, you're right, we're all Texans, we're all Americans. So we don't have a tendency to put up with that sort of stuff very long. But the rest of the world does. I mean, the rest of the United States, the further, to me it's kind of interesting, the further away from Texas you get, the more divisive the force seems to be.
Yeah,
does that make sense? Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, if you look at it in concentric circles, I guarantee you it would be frighteningly obvious that the further away from Texas you get going out in circles, the more divisive the forces are. The more divisive forces are successful.
Yeah.
I don't have any scientific. I don't have anything to back that up. But if you just start spotting news stories and putting them on a map, I'll bet you'll find what I'm saying is true. Okay. There are 37 acts of potential terrorism planned for tomorrow by BLM.
I did hear
San Antonio is not on the list.
No.
The only city in Texas that is on the list is Austin. Outside the state capital. So both of the Black Lives Matter people will be there. And they'll be surrounded, I'm sure, by the anti-Black Lives Matter people.
I'm sure.
All right. But in other cities, it could be very ugly. And it talks about them as terrorist events. These are not socially conscious individuals. They've also stated, Black Lives Matter has also stated, that they will open carry at the two conventions. Provocation?
Well, I would think that would be provocation, and I can't speak against their right to do that, but given, the question you have to ask is, why is Black Lives Matter, why are they doing this? What is their goal? What is their aim?
To take us down.
Exactly.
To take us down and to create an environment open to martial law.
Martial law. There you go.
And as recently as 2 days ago, it was reiterated by the president, who, by the way, just finished a 1 hour from 7 to 8 o'clock local time or something. 7 o'clock he was on the air.
Some town hall meeting. I couldn't even watch it. I was trying to eat.
I have to. It didn't cost me to go buy a television, so who cares? Anyway, I mean, yeah, it's to divide us up. And very recently he re-signed an executive order or reissued an executive order allowing the United Nations to bring in troops in case of another incident like Dallas or another, where we need outside sources to help protect us. All right. Now, something from a Harvard professor. We went from Stanford. Now I'll give you something from a Harvard professor who did a study, and the headline says, "No racial bias in police shootings." It's been proven by a study by a Harvard professor.
You look at the statistics, and they're right.
It ain't there.
It's not there.
It's just not there. So it is all manufactured. One last thing,
sir.
as you know, one of our justices of the Supreme Court, a lady by the name of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, made a statement against Donald Trump that said he was a faker and, came out against him. Trump instantly called her on it, as is Trump's style, told her she owed him an apology, and she owed an apology to the court, that as a member of the Supreme Court, she has no business speaking out on politics. Today, she apologized.
Amen.
Front row. Time to go. You have been listening to the Doc Owen Show. Thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it. Now go out there this week and take care, pay attention, and God bless.
Bye-bye, folks. God bless.